It's not out of our control. It's not like he wants to kill. He just doesn't want to die. You know what I'm saying? It's that situation when we are living in a war zone. I feel like I can represent my generation so much because I honestly did not care whether I live or die. But now, I cannot die. I can't leave until this straight. You know, I'm not suicidal. I can't go until y'all really know what time it is. And then after that, boom, it's all over. And we can see, how this fall. But that's how it is. And the reason being is because if I can't live free, if I can't live with the same respect as the next man, I don't want to be here. Because God has cursed me to see what life should be like.
I said we ain't no loafers, we ain't no poachers, we ain't no haters of self, we ain't no vultures. This ain't our culture. I said this ain't our culture. I said we ain't no loafers, we ain't no poachers, we ain't no haters of self, we ain't no vultures. This ain't our culture.
This ain't our culture. I said this ain't our culture. Top of the top to y'all. I hope y'all can hear me. We A1, we gravy, we all that. All right. So first of all, we're gonna go ahead and get right through this spiel quick, fast, and in a hurry, just so we can because we got a lot to talk about. You know what I mean? And y'all know we shut everything down in an hour. You know what I mean? Ain't nobody playing them paper bag games with y'all. You know what I mean? So first of all, let me go ahead and quick kick off this disclaimer. You tapped into the Make a Culture Move podcast, with Top of the Top with King Phillip, where we're talking about the issues within the Black and brown community that we're not saying or speaking up about, to the point where these issues have become very destructive and very deadly. Some of these topics, we most of all of these topics, we did not go and find some research to back up what we're saying. We experienced what we are putting out there. That is our research. That's what make us the experts. All right. So with that being said, if we say anything on this podcast that make you feel some kind of way, all right, I'm gonna tell you to take the time to reevaluate why what was said made you feel that way. You do not have to wait and come to Phillip and be like, "Ooh, I can't wait to see Phillip. I'm gonna give Phillip all of my mind. Ooh, I can't wait to see that nigga. Ooh." I'm gonna just look at you like, "Come on, man, not again." Like, that's how I'm gonna look at you, dead ass. You know what I mean? So this morning, this is what we got going. You know what I mean? Let me do my quick little run through. If you haven't, check out the makeachessmove.org website. All right. Go to the tab, you know what I mean? And make sure that you check out the, under the tab, we have the under the donation tab, we have the toolkit where you can copy and paste the different texts and we can get in on that end. You know what I mean? So I'm not telling you to make a donation. I'm telling you to copy and paste the information that's in the toolkit to your social media, to email, to a text message, to your buddies, all that. Make sure y'all go ahead and like the Facebook page /Macam303, Twitter, Instagram /Macam303, Twitter thing /Macam303. And again, we got that Pinterest thing booming too. You know what I mean? /Macam303. So go ahead and make sure that y'all check all that out. All right. So this morning, let me go ahead and bring in our guests. First of all, you know what I mean? Just to let y'all know where we at with it. All right. And we got another guest that's going to be tapping in as well too real soon. You know what I mean? But just to give y'all a heads up of where we're going this morning. All right, there we go. We're talking about what it's like being black in Denver. All right. We were talking about being black in Denver. So that's what we were talking about. So let me go ahead and get all of our guests to introduce themselves, please.
Ladies first. I am Nisha J. I grew up in the east side of Denver. I work in mental health and therapy, and I am happy to be here.
James Harvey. I'm another resident of the east side of Denver, Colorado. I'm a real estate agent in the community as well as an owner of one of a small moving company. So, just here for some great commentary.
You want to go next, Tank?
Yeah, my name is Ariana Franklin. I grew up in Denver, and right now I'm just a travel agent. And I went to Maine High School.
Awesome. My name's Elijah Huff. I work with the best for the best place in the world with Macam, Make a Chess Move. I'm also the owner of East End Vision Apparel, and I'm a newbie still to the conversation. I'm be here. I keep getting invited back.
All right, that's a bet. So just so that we can make sure that everything is clear, unless we're talking, I'm gonna go ahead and put everybody on mute. Unless we're talking, if that's all right with everyone, just so we can get all the little back feed ground and stuff like that. But let's go ahead and jump into this conversation first of all. You know what I mean? Because number one, I told y'all I'm not the talking type. I hate talking. And I give everybody my perspectives, and it's real clear and it's real quick and it's real fast. All right. So with that being said, too, we're talking about what it's like being black in Denver. And the thing is, when it comes to being black in Denver, there's many aspects to that. So I'm gonna just throw it out there right now in terms of what exactly is being black in Denver versus just being black. I'm gonna let my man Huff kick this off because this is his conversation. You know what I mean? This is his topic. I'm gonna let him lead this off.
Bet, bet. So I'll first start with kind of where I got the inspiration for this is because I feel like, man, every other day you'll hop on Facebook and you'll see one of your cousins, somebody you grew up with, a family member talking about, I'm sick of Colorado, I'm sick of Denver, I'm moving to Texas, or I'm moving to somewhere in the South, or I'm moving to California, or I'm moving whatever the case may be. And I just have started to realize, like, man, for Black people here in Denver, for some reason the experience that we have right here, they're hating it. They're either hating it because it's just whack, or they're going elsewhere and experiencing what it's like to be black, and then they're falling in love with the experience. So then that's when I started to realize, like, okay, there's clearly some kind of divide or some kind of difference between being black here in our city and being black elsewhere. And I haven't traveled very much throughout the South. I've only been to Little Rock, Memphis. I think I've stopped in Oklahoma somewhere, and then I might have been to Houston one time. I think just stopping through. But I've just noticed that even just meeting people from them areas, it just seems like Black people are so much more together and so much more closely knit in other areas than we are here in Denver. And I think that definitely changes the experience of like how we treat each other, how we treat other Black people, how we interact with each other, and then also just overall how we have fun. I feel like Black people here in Denver don't have as much fun and like extra activities or whatever the case may be that maybe our white counterparts do, or Black people elsewhere experiencing. So it spiked my interest just noticing all this. So I had to bring this question to this group, especially because I've realized that being Black in Denver also means different based on our age ranges. Like my mother's experience being Black is completely different growing up in Denver than my experience being Black, simply because she grew up in an mostly all black neighborhood, versus towards the back end, my neighborhood started getting gentrified. So I didn't have that same unity. So I think it's a unity thing, and that factors how we treat each other. But I really want to hear everybody else's thoughts on this.
I was gonna say too, even to that extent, you know what I mean, with folks saying they want to get out of Denver, they want to get out of Colorado. Me, I never felt that way. You know what I mean? I've never experienced something to the point where I'm like, oh, Denver ain't shit. People in Denver ain't shit. Women in Denver ain't shit. You know what I mean? To the point I've always channeled my own experience. I always owned up to my own experience. You know what I mean? So in terms of that, I don't I don't have that experience, you know what I mean? But I do know exactly what you're talking about. And then I do look at the people who are saying this, like, come on, are you really saying this and not looking at yourself as the person who might not be ain't shit? Because I know every nigga in Denver ain't shit. I know that's not the case. You know what I mean? And it's always seemed like black women again that's talking about Denver man, Denver ain't shit. So even if y'all even looking at that part too, you know, I would have taken it a step further and dive a little deeper too, because I'm an East Side baby, East Side official. You know what I mean? I let it be known that I'm from the East Side to the point where I don't even have to say I'm from the East Side. It's an aura that just spills out of my, you know what I mean, out of my body. So, but it used to be that I used to tell people, they would ask me where I'm from, and I would tell them I'm from the E, and their first response was followed by I don't fuck with niggas from the E. Why is that? Looking at that, and again, we're looking at the culture as a whole.
Well, man, one thing that I like to say is, I mean, being black in Denver, and especially what you're talking about, Philip, I think you have to understand once again, we come from a generation where we grew up in the East Side that was basically all black. So our experience and our love for the East Side is different from what these kids are going to experience now. I mean, as real as it gets, the community really does not exist how it existed when we were growing up. So I mean, the East Side exists pretty much in heart only, but it's a completely different place. My point in saying that is that our experience once again when we were younger, because we had a lot of black community to actually pull from, I think it's just a lot stronger experience than what these kids actually have the opportunity to experience now.
And it's also crazy too, because I was told, who had told me that Denver is the first place they have ever heard the saying, all skin folk ain't kin folk. You know what I mean? Like, to the point where we're dividing black folks in Denver up, and there is that
Mhm.
division clearly.
Mhm.
Well, that division is kind of ill, man. You have to understand. I like to call Colorado the reality of what the United States is, and I say that because the black population in Colorado, it kind of mimics the overall black population across the country. So black people, I want to say, are about 11 to 12% of the overall population in the country. And that is exactly how we're represented in Colorado. So, I mean, as real as it gets, if we were spread out, I like to say that Colorado shows some reality. But at the same time, I will say that being from Colorado and being in Colorado, it's definitely hard to get it's hard to, what I mean, get that camaraderie from black people and from the black, our culture, because we're so spread out. In these other states, when people are trying to go to Texas, when they're trying to go to Atlanta, where there's a bigger representation of us. You have to understand, when you step into these places, I think it's a level of comfort, because you're in Colorado, you kind of have to play both sides. Black people in Colorado definitely have to be
Mhm.
two within one. Whereas in some of these other states, you can really just be yourself and still be viewed as professional, still be
What
viewed as intelligent.
what
You
do you
know what I
mean?
mean?
What do you mean be two in one? What do you mean by that?
I mean, when you're dealing with all white, all right. So if you're once again being in Colorado, my experience has been most times in professional environments, you are the only. So, in Texas, Atlanta, all these places you go, you can be around a huge group of or large environment of professionals where it's a lot of black professionals. But here, you might be the only one in the room. So, how you communicate with these people who aren't necessarily of your culture is completely different. You're going to talk to white people a little bit different than you're going to talk to black people. So, black people in Colorado, and I don't think it's a bad thing. I think that we have to learn how to maneuver into different fields and into different cultures and talk to different people, whereas you go down south, you can just be black, you know what I mean, you could just be you know what I'm saying. So I think that plays a little bit into it.
I mean, even to that point too, why are we not being us at all points, at all costs? And I feel like that part plays a huge role in how black folk move in Colorado. Me, I always making clear that I haven't developed the skill of code switch. I don't know
Mm.
how to talk to white people differently than I talk to,
The homies.
the
Yeah.
homies.
Yeah.
You know, so if
Mhm.
they can't understand what I'm talking about or what I'm saying, then there's some kind of whatever there's some kind of breakdown right there. But I don't feel like that we need to speak their language. And I think that's part of my problem too. It's not that I can't, it's that I don't want to switch over. I don't want to code switch. You know what I mean? And if you don't, and if y'all don't mind me, I believe that Tay, she brings a perspective that we all don't have right now. We are all born in Denver. We were all born and raised in Denver. Tay, she was born in, was it Washington?
Yeah, I was born in Washington, but majority of my life was like on like South Denver, like DTC. Like I went to Hamilton Middle School. You know, I was enrolled to go to Cherry Creek, so I have a different experience as far as like um unity within Black people. Because I when I went to Manual, it was completely like a shock. It was like a life changer for me. It was like, oh, this is reality. Um, so yeah, like when I went to Manual, uh, I was looked down upon if I wasn't, because I wasn't comfortable with the things that the girls were doing. Like it was a completely different culture that I had been in. Also, it was more violent, and it was more like it was different for me. It was like I had to, because I wasn't with the girls that was like doing what they were doing down the block on the street or anything like that, or because I was friendly to everybody. Honestly, I talked to everyone, and that's just how I grew up. And because of that, I myself, like, I dropped out of freshman year for 2 3 months because I was bullied by the girls at Manual, and I didn't feel a part at all. And so I never got to experience like the sisterhood or anything like that in the culture of the East Side that a lot of people did have. And so I personally just struggled back and forth growing up with that.
So what culture did you come from when you said it was a big shock? Where did you come from to Manual where
It was
there's this
just diverse. It was just more diverse. It was much more like it was just a little bit different. I mean, there wasn't no like separation or anything. Like everyone, academics was kind of like the same, or it wasn't no, oh, we were not gonna sit with her because she Mexican or she light skinned or anything like that. It was more like open.
Mm.
And I went to school with Tay, and I think Tay is a perfect example of like what happens with Black people who, like, there's what I want to call like us hood niggas that grew up in like East Side, Park Hill, Montbello, that area, and then you got those who grew up like in the like more South Denver, where it's like Cherry Creek, or might have went to more of the white schools and stuff, and how there is an extreme disconnect between like our wealthier Black people and then like the poorer Black people in the city. I think that a lot of my friends who went to Creek, Overland, Rangeview, like, and not that them schools are just wildly wealthier than some of the schools in DPS, but it's just their reality being Black in Denver was just different than my reality, and I could see the disconnection that would exist there simply because they made more money. They didn't grow up. They definitely didn't grow up like in the East Side in the circumstances. And I think that there's a real disconnect there, is that like the wealthier Black people of Denver definitely look down on those who like grew up in the East Side, grew up in Montbello, grew in that area. I really feel like there's a disconnect there.
Yeah, for me,
So I,
like,
oh,
oh, go ahead.
oh no, I'm sorry. I wanted to say that I agreed with what James had said earlier, as far as like the two in one thing, because I've absolutely experienced that. Because like, so I grew up on the East Side, and so on the East Side with my Black friends and counterparts, I had to act a certain way. And then when I would switch over to work, because I've always worked in the corporate world. I've always, that I've always been a part of that. I talked to those people different, even so much to the point that it was like I was two different people. And so like when people from work, like, oh, where are you from, or this or that, and I tell them, they be like, you lying. And I'm like, I'm dead ass. And then you experience the reverse racism when you go back to the hood, and then you've got your Black friends up like, oh, she talking white, or she thinks she better than us, she this, she that, and it's not that. It's that a lot of Black people in Colorado uniquely learn to do that because it's a survival mechanism. So
So
you
what did
are.
that I was gonna say, what did that do to you having to shift? You know what I mean? In terms of not even what did it do to you, but how did that shift their relationship with you once you told them and let them know you was from the East Side? You know what I mean?
So when you do that, it kind of puts me under a microscope a little bit. So I'm already there, right? Because you're Black and you're female, so you got all these things on top of you. And so when you kind of add that in, it gets a little stressful because you're literally you're switching back and forth, and you do it so much so that now you don't even think about it. Like I could be on the phone, right, trying to handle some business, professional as hell, and then have my phone on mute and then cuss out my background. or talk a little shit to like maybe like my friends were there or something, like I would sound like I was two different people, and I could just switch that up so much. And you have to, people kind of treat you a little different. So especially like the white people at work, it would always be like, well, what part of the east side of Denver, or like they want to know like how you, like why you are not what they're expecting you to be, because there is a stereotype for black people here that white people think that we're supposed to be, because with us being in Colorado, like it's really unique. Like this state is beautiful, but you are literally, you're boxed in. This is the box. This state is a perfect square, and you are kind of boxed in. So we don't really get the exposure of like the black culture down south, or more like on the east coast and stuff that you kind of see. You don't really get to experience that until you become an adult and start venturing out in the world. Like I didn't even know that, like even something as simple as like poetry stuff, because we don't do stuff like that, but we didn't. Like it's starting to kind of appear a little bit more, but I wasn't exposed to that until I left this state. So it was like I had to kind of leave to understand the black part of me, but then appreciate what I had assimilated from the whiteness around me, so that I could survive in my state. And it just, that was just the reality of growing up here.
Go ahead, James.
And one thing that I want to point out too is, we think about it. So when I say 2-in-1, the first thing that comes is a negative connotation with, this person is being fake. You know what I mean? And that's kind of what you saying. You know what I mean? Like I never felt like I had to change. But bro, I would argue that, I don't see anything necessarily wrong. I think that when you're in interaction with different cultures, that you're naturally going to switch up your styles. I mean, even as a man, you're going to talk differently to other men than you're going to talk to women. The point of it is you have to have these tools in your toolkit so that when you come out into society, you can actually maneuver. I have one quick story. And, when we first started our moving company over 11 years ago, I never forget, the first few times answering the phone, and white people would pick up, and I might not be all the way prepared. So, it might come out that
what's going on with
that
you?
I'm black. Yo, I've literally had white people get afraid and just hang up the phone. You know what I'm saying? Like you learn very quickly to, hello, this is James Harvey with the Round the Clock Movers. You know what I'm saying? And to be like concise, like bro, because that's the reality of our state. You know what I mean? The people that I'm doing business with, 95% of my clients are white, and that has nothing to do with, even my want. It's just the reality of where I'm at and the people that come into my business world. And I'm not saying that you have to change up completely, but you are going to maneuver some of your tactics when you're dealing with other cultures.
Hey,
Go ahead.
I was gonna ask, because that just brings up a good point though. Like, yeah, we get these tools in our toolbox, but I've seen that certain black people, because we got them tools, we forget the other tools that make us black. And then we often have time having close relationships.
There it is right there.
One thing I'll say, like I've learned this, and maybe this is, I need to experience more, but I don't think I'm a nigga who could live in the South. Like I honestly don't know if I'm that kind of black person where I will enjoy full-blown Southern culture. I wasn't raised down there. I wasn't introduced to it enough. Like I'm an East Side nigga. I'm a Denver black man, period. And I think that sometimes we struggle with that growing up in Denver, is that we get so used to holding these tools and having these certain tools that we usually lose our connection of being black. And that makes it a struggle for us to have relationships with people from different cultures. Because I've had some people come up from Texas who meet certain Denver people and be like, I can't deal with y'all. Like, y'all not the kind of black that I am. And then I've met some people from Texas, like, y'all can take y'all ass back down there because y'all not the kind of black we are out here. So how does that play a role into how we have interactions with people from other spaces?
Who want that? Because that's heavy right there. You know what I mean? I can go. That's heavy. I mean, and the thing is, man, you had hit the ball on you had hit the nail on the head on plenty points just now, asking them questions. Number one, I don't think we have very similar mind frames, myself and Huff. You know what I mean? I'm not that same black person either. But at the same time, too, even looking at being able to what James has said in terms of, looking at him picking up the phone and the white folks getting scared just behind the tone or your voice. You know what I mean? And that was my same experience too. To the point where every time I answer my phone is make your next move your best move. This is Philip. What's up? You know what I mean? It's still something that's me. You know what I mean? And they be like, "Oh, that's cool. I like that." Just to break the ice type of thing. So, I mean, in Denver, it's I do agree. I do agree. But in terms of where the black folks in Denver is not like black folks elsewhere. There isn't a strong black folks lifting other black folks up in the city. You know what I mean? There's black folks who make it in the city and will look down on you and won't even lift a helping hand. They won't do shit. But once you make it to that point, they will expect you to, embrace them once you make it up there with them, like it's all love and shit. When it's like, nah, nigga, fuck you. I had to make it up here without you. You didn't help me get to this point when we got other white folks and stuff like that, and even other black folks in other states who's actually uplifting other black folks. So,
Bro,
when it
I
comes to
gotta
that
I gotta
point,
disagree with you a little bit on that, because my biggest thing is that once again it's the numbers. It's easier to spot up black people uplifting each other when you go to a space and it's all black people. You know what I mean? See,
I
our
mean, we
numbers,
can,
but hold on, our
yeah,
numbers
you
is
got it.
like, you have to understand that even the black people here uplift black people. I know I try to do that every day. You know what I'm saying? But it goes unseen because we're so far and few in between. The numbers in Colorado are so small between the black community that it's easy to point the finger at us and say what we're not doing. We do have a lot of progressive black people trying to push black community and black culture, but you're not going to see it the same as like somewhere like Texas, like once again, DC, or you know what I mean, like Georgia, like a Louisiana, because there are huge populations of black people running stuff in those places. So I mean, it's easier to visually point that stuff out than it is in Denver.
Can I ask you a personal question?
Yes, sir.
How long have you been a father?
3 years.
Have you been invited to daddy daughter dance?
I haven't.
All right. I've been a father for 10 years. I haven't been invited to any of these foundational daddy daughter dances. Am I still in?
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying all that to say black folks, they uplift the same black folks. There's a hierarchy when it comes to the black money in Denver, when it comes to the black folks in Denver, when it comes to that.
And you're
that
saying that doesn't exist in any other state. You're saying there's
I'm, I'm
no
no,
hierarchy.
I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that I don't know in terms of other states, but I know in Denver there's no uplifting if you're not in that circle. If you're talking like I am, and if you're not agreeing with and pulling the same strings and filling in the same ballots on your voting cards and shit like these other people who's in those black circles, they're not going to help you get to that same point as them. You know what I mean? To the point of us not being invited to these daddy daughter dances, they keep that again within their elite circle. And I mean, it's crazy beyond me because I got homies whose dads who's they sell dope, they gang bang, but at the end of the day, they are fathers in their lives and they don't get that same invitation. These awards is getting pushed out to
See, I'm
folks
not even
who
familiar with what you're
60.
talking about, honestly. So you kind of missing me with the daddy daughter stuff.
So
I ain't gonna lie to you, bro.
I was my fault.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say what I think you're getting at, Phil, and I think James, you were 100% right about the like population thing. I definitely think that's like 95% of the problem. I think the 5% that really stands out, what gets us here, is that those people in position of power that are black are not uplifting people. Versus like in other cities in Atlanta, if there's let's just use Atlanta, Dallas, other places. Let's just say there's 10 leaders.
I
You're
mean,
more
look at
likely to find
T.I.
more leaders uplifting. You feel me?
Denver.
I
Who
mean,
are
look
all
at
these black people in Denver that aren't uplifting black people? Who are these leaders that are just completely leaving black people out of thought? Can y'all
Well,
name some
I
of
ain't
them?
gonna say no names. I would rather
Chauncey
say
Billups.
that. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
Chauncey Billups.
Huh?
I'll say names. Chauncey Billups.
Chauncey Phillips has a foundation. He might not be in there like how we necessarily want him, but you know, him and black people, they have foundations where they give back, bro. You know what I'm
But
saying?
who
I'm not
are
saying
these
that they're
black
in the
people?
community how like they live there like we might want them to, but these people give back more than you could just point at. You know what I'm
See,
saying?
this my thing. Chauncey, okay, since we gonna throw Chauncey Billups, let's just use Chauncey Select, the basketball club. I can't name one nigga from the hood that played on his team. I can't name one nigga that grew up in Montbello,
Not
the
one.
East Side, or Park Hill that was a trench baby, such as myself, that paid for any Chauncey Bell select. If you was not going to trails, if you weren't one of them super athletic kids that went to trails, Chatfield, Boulder, one of those suburban schools, you wasn't going to Manual, East, or none of those schools and playing for Chauncey Bell Elite. Period.
I
At least
agree.
in my generation. At least in
I
my
agree.
generation. Yeah, you know what I mean? There ain't no trench babies playing for Chauncey. There ain't that many trench babies playing for the Colorado Hawks. And when you are a trench baby and you're playing for them, you better be damn near nationally ranked. Like Gervais Green's the last person I seen play for a
Mhm.
major Colorado AAU team, and he grew up on 29th and Gilbert. I ain't seen no other kid, like not even my boy Wesley, who went to Harvard. He went to
Oh, I thought we
Harvard
were putting this all
and
on
he
song.
didn't even get, and he wasn't even getting opportunities to play for upper elite ball clubs. And he went to Harvard, like he went on that Division I scale and had to grind. So I'm not even go like when it comes to dudes like Chauncey and certain things, yeah, they may do stuff with black people, but who are these black people? And that's the question we're trying to get at. Like, are these the black people that are impoverished, that are at the bottom, that need the help, that need the culture on them? Or are these the wealthy black people that have already swapped out, been out of the hood, living out the hood, building their wealth, and not coming back and connecting? And I think that's the problem. But Chauncey's a great example because he ain't coming to get no kids from the hood to come up on his team. If you ain't at least got a couple thousand to pay for them travel fees, you're not playing for Chauncey. You're not playing for
Ladies,
him.
Well, I don't know about basketball and Chauncey Billups, but what I do know is that the racism, like, okay, so Philip, I kind of agree with you. I get what you're saying, and I'm kind of shifted more on this. Like, I still agree with James in a lot of aspects. Is that the racism here is subtle? Like, you're not encouraged to walk in your blackness necessarily, because like you said, like we're more accessing those toolkits all the time so that we can survive in this world. It's like Colorado, black people in Colorado are like the house niggas. And then you've got your black people in your more southern states. And so we're looking at them like they're more black, they're more culturally in tune. They're the real black people. And like we're in the house looking down on them kind of thing. Because we have it a little bit better here. And I'm pretty sure we've all had this experience with somebody that we know that maybe came to visit from out of town, or maybe just somebody we met on limb or whatever. But we'll always tell you everything is different. Just the way our cities are, even what we consider the hood in other states where, you know, like in Chicago or something, they're like, no, that's not the hood. I'll take you to the hood. But it's the hood for us. So it's like even at our lowest point, we're still a little higher than, you know, like our black people in our other states. And so it again goes back to where we're kind of boxed in because it makes us hard to relate. Like you said, Huff, like I'm not the kind of black person that is gonna survive in Texas. I'll go out there and visit, but you know, like overall, like my upbringing and experiences have been really different. I'm going to have a hard time assimilating into that black culture. I love it. I think it's beautiful and I want to go be around it, but I couldn't live there. This is where I've learned to survive. This is where I'm comfortable, even with, you know, like our reverse racism, and even with our, you know, the subtle sneak this as we get from white people, and you know, with them wondering why we speak so good, or you know, why we live in a certain part of town, or those type of things. Those are the things that have been uniquely ingrained into us, and so it causes a disconnect from our black people elsewhere, and then it causes a separation with us here because we put ourselves into these different classes. Like if you grew up in the hood and then somehow you kind of made it out, you really don't have any interest in going back because you're like, it was so hard to get out of there. I don't want to be back there. And so you start acting more, or you start acting less than what is considered being black. And we're all forgetting that I'm black all the time, whether I'm talking like it or looking like it or whatnot. But we're putting these labels on ourselves and separating ourselves that way.
Mm. Let me tap in real
Um,
fast. Go ahead, Tay.
I personally feel like it just goes back to the whole, you know, you have to learn to adapt thing. I remember my uncle, that's who I mainly lived with when I was on the east side, and he told me that I had to learn to adapt to the what's going on at Manual and those type of things. And I do agree with, I agree with the population thing, like the whole with James, like being spread out and all of that. But I also agree with the fact that if you're not in a certain circle within these black, you know, communities or whatever, then if you're not part of that circle, then you're not being acknowledged or, you know, helped out. I do agree with that as well. Because me personally, though, I have, like, with me traveling, you know, within the last month, I've probably been to like 5 or 6 different states, and me experiencing like just Nashville for instance. Like, I was out in Nashville, and there was in the building I was working in, there was but 10 people, 10 Black employees, and they were all nice. And I was just like, why is everyone so nice? And they're like, well, it's Southern hospitality. And I was like, I really didn't think that was a thing. Like, I didn't think that was a thing. Like, just how you go somewhere to a different state and people say, oh, they drive crazy in this state. People are really nicer in different states. And it didn't matter, you know, whether they knew where I came from or anything like that. Like, it was just open arms and everything like that. But if experience in Denver on my end, it's just like, it's not open arms. Like, they got to get your background, where you come from, who you know, because Denver's so small, and it's just like, it's not that welcoming thing. So it's like, you're either gonna adapt and, like you said, learn to survive, or, you know, or you're gonna drown if you're not living with the program with there, you know.
Yes, indeed, I agree. And it's crazy. I was just sitting up here thinking about it and stuff too. You know, with the Southern hospitality and looking at the HBCUs that those states are connected to. You know what I mean? I'm looking at the education that some of those students may have been brought up with, considering that they have HBCUs in those states as well. So I'm just looking at it like, could that have played a part? You know what I mean? But let's go ahead and tap in real fast. We got a few. Um, James, he said, I love the tools analogy, James. The reality, that's good. You know, Miss Lily Best, she said, James, I like your analogy of tools in your toolbox. You are 100. You know what I mean? James, he said, it may be a struggle, but let's all be honest. If we want something bad enough, we will find a way. It's free to bless you all. So true in everything you all are saying. What's the thought process of these progressive Black people building up the Black community and culture? If we're already different than most blacks being from Denver, is the culture we're pushing the hybrid version. QT say we got what they give. I live in Texas, and the daddy-daughter dance is something big where I live. And, you know, the only reason I had brought that up was because, you know, when they do these daddy-daughter dances, they don't send the invites to, you know, folks like us. That's what I'm saying. You know, we don't get those invites. That's all I'm saying, from Black organizations who put these daughter daddy dances together. I want to go out with my babies and dance with them. You know, we dance all the time in the house, and I want to be able to do that with them as well. You know what I mean? But I guess since we don't make donations like that, or we don't, you know, ride those same waves, we don't get those kind of, you know, invites. But QT say, nigga, I'm finna give these cats 5,000 to hoop so they can do something this summer besides kill each other. Billups never did that.
You ain't never done no shit like that. Never.
I agree with James. In other states and cities, there are so many others lifting the group. Denver is small, so it's easy to spot. Chauncey is an easy target because he's the one, versus other places they have many that made it. If
So
y'all want to tap in on any of these, please go ahead and tap in on any of these.
jump
I know.
in real quick.
Hey,
Go ahead. I'm gonna ask you a question. Go ahead. Let me ask you a question and then go. Let me ask you a question.
Yep.
You remember when I was a kid, one of my favorite things is I used to come up and see you hoop at the pro end. I watched shit like that don't exist no more, man. So like, speak to that if you can. Like, why don't we have these kind of cultural spaces? Because I used to see the pro am as a Black thing. There might be white players, but to me as a kid, that was a Black thing. And Hiawatha, or just in general, those kind of spaces. Why don't we have those no more, man? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, you know, once again, we had Black community. It's crazy. Like, as the years go and as these decades, especially in the 2000s, you know, 2010s, we were just even separated even more. And you know what, man, I agree with a lot of what you said, even about Chauncey, because, man, I'm the type of person, bro, if I had every dollar that I wanted, all the millions of dollars that I could have, bro, I'd be right there on the east side.
I know you would.
And I'll be giving back to my people. I'll be trying to help out. Now,
Giving back.
Now, this is the biggest thing. This is honestly the where I will, you know what I mean, try to, you know, I give Chauncey his due. Once again, the gentleman who just commented, bro, he's the one. So, I mean, and he's the only one. You know what I'm saying? So
So that
it's
should be
easy.
enough reason, though. If you know that you are the only one, you should be the reason who
Hold
sets
on
that
though.
mark.
But with you being the only one, that can also make you an easy target for hate, man. You know what I'm saying? If you're the only one in the community with $50 million, bro, Chauncey's not necessarily just as safe as we would like to think he is, just being in the community, you know what I'm saying, having all of that prestige, having all of those accolades,
And you know,
constantly having people, pulling at you and asking. All I'm saying is that I'm not knocking. I'm not saying that he shouldn't do more. We shouldn't see his presence more, because I feel like that with him being that one. But bro, that's a lot of
I
pressure
give you
on
that.
one man
I
to
respect that.
uphold all of us. You
I
know what I'm
respect
saying?
that.
And really, as real as it gets, he has the we have to realize that all of us have one life. So I mean, Chauncey might not be that leader that we necessarily want, because he's off living his life how he should. My biggest thing in saying all of that is I think that we have to put away the black leaders and looking for, specific people to uphold us. Like
I
if we
agree
want
with
a
that.
daddy daughter dance, P, then that's
we
something
putting
that
that
we need to
together.
put
Yeah, we
together.
already
You
putting
know what
that
I'm
together.
saying?
Guaranteed, we doing that already. Yes,
But
indeed.
yeah,
That's
so I
got a
just
date and
saying, due
everything.
to separation, we can't.
I agree. I agree
It's
with
gonna
you,
be
bro.
more separation with black people pointing fingers. Oh, these
Hmm.
black people ain't doing that. I'm not part of this hierarchy. I'm saying in Texas, Atlanta, all those places, there's a hierarchy also. It's just still easier for you to get by, because even if you're not on that hierarchy, you still have a lot of other black people to deal with. In Denver, once again, we just singled out. And I just really think that, our numbers here really plays a lot into who we are, because we're so separate.
And Miss Lily Beth, she had just hit it too. I'm gonna go back through these comments and stuff too, but she had asked, why not get together with other uninvited dads and make a daddy daughter? That's exactly what we are doing. That's exactly what we are doing.
Shout out to
We
my
have
aunt. Appreciate
we
you.
have we have a date. We have women behind the scenes. It's going to be a daddy daughter workshop where we're going to be talking to these little girls and these women on what to look for out of what not to expect from a man or accept from a man, how to uphold yourself as a black woman, as a black queen. That's the whole workshop that's going to lead to a dinner and a dance. So yes, we are definitely going to do that. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of them that's in this discussion. You know what I mean? Who I want to make sure we get some invites to. But let me go back into this, because they was cooking in these questions too. Right on for those questions too, C's. You know what I mean? But my man Trey, he said, what role did the police play in y'all's growing up? Fuck the police.
Mm.
That's the role the police played in our growing up. I remember one time. I remember one time. I mean, the police, they was doing their job and some extra shit. But before I go in, I'm gonna let y'all, Nisha and Tay, I want to hear how the police played a role in y'all's growing up from y'all's perspective.
Well, I try to avoid them at all costs. I didn't necessarily have the same bad experience as, say, like my brothers. Like, I definitely noticed that the racism is a little bit heavier with the males than with the females. So it get like kind of like the background racism and stuff. So as far as like with the police, there's always the assumption that like I'm gonna be the loud black ghetto girl, so they're defensive against me automatically, like being in my face and doing the things that you do when you're trying to get a person to kind of submit to your authority. And so just trying to survive, I submit to that. Like I don't want no problems. I'm not talking loud. I wasn't getting smart, this or that or whatever. So, but I haven't had a lot of run-ins with the police just for those very reasons, because it always turns into like a takeover kind of situation. So I try to stay clear of it as much as I can.
Um, Me personally, I never really like had interactions with police. That was not my, I mean the law. That's not. I'm scared to go to jail, so I'm never gonna do that. But no, like the times I did have an interaction though, I had a cop pull me over and he wrote I was Caucasian on the ticket. So
Hmm.
interactions are different for me. Like I don't know, I've stayed calm in situations, and it's also different because I am a woman. I feel like the
Mhm.
experience is different for like men, but women can get away with things, and that's just not dealing with police. That's a lot of other things, and I haven't had interaction with the police, but I do understand what it's like. Having a life having a life like with the system because my mom is a felon. So I understand in that aspect of things of like, the struggle or things, not being able to find a house or a job with my mom and, being on the east side and those type of situations, but never actual one-on-ones with the police other than, getting pulled over for a ticket or something. So, yeah.
Go ahead, fellas.
I think the homies, I'll speak more so for my homeboys. I think one of the struggles is actually one of my roommates, his ambition now is to become a cop. And I just had a other homeboy just get booked for just a little warrant he had for like some driving tickets. And it was his first time ever going to jail. And he was like, I walk in there and he's like, they getting ready to strip me. And he's like, the white dude's asking me, what gang you from? I see you all these tats. You ever been fucked? You ever been raped? You ever been any of this? And he's like, I'm sitting there like, whoa. And he's like, bro, this is my first time ever really having a deep run-in with the police and going to jail. So he's like, now I understand why every time the homies get out of the gill or they got out when we was kids, it was fuck the police. Because he was like, I didn't see one black cop in there. Didn't nobody look like me. Didn't nobody show me no love. Didn't nobody like, you know what I mean? Not even necessarily show me love, but just be cordial. He was like, it took me until I got in there and was in there with this drunk old head before I actually got calm and cool. And he's like, I was in there for 6-7 hours. And then that's been like the continuing trend amongst my friends is like, these white cops, they be really fucking us up when they catch us. It'd be bad for us. And there ain't enough black cops out here, at least in Denver, that are having, good representation and showing how to do their job properly and not do the extra stuff, fill ads. And I think that plays a role into being black here in Denver. I think all of us on here have heard horror stories of DPD, APD. I remember my uncle telling me how they was catching Crips, beating their ass and dropping them off on the Holly in the 90s and just how horrible it was, how horrible DPD was and how racist they was. And I think that plays a role because I've had my friends in Texas tell me, you'll go down there, the cop is black, the gas station clerk is black, everybody's black, and how even though they still the police, that there's just still a hair more of comfort just because you see that man is black, even though it's still a real chance of everything happening, but just even going into the situation, you might think you have a better chance because the officer is black.
So I think that we're all in the agreement. I think all of us kind of understand why the police were created. They were basically, you know what I mean? The police force was basically created to keep black people in line, you know what I'm saying? Especially after slavery. So we all understand, I have no misconceptions about, our battles with police. Now, with that said, so I've actually had good and bad experiences with the police. You know what I'm saying? I've had white cops pull me over way before weed was legal. I had weed on me, you know what I'm saying? Pulled it out, like, bro, you got something on me? On you, pulled it out, gave it to him, had him give it back to me and let me go on my way. You know what I'm saying? I worked for Wells Fargo, and I had the privy of being around 3 black cops, you know what I'm saying, who are just cool gentlemen. You know what I'm saying? I had a lot of love for them, you know what I mean, and what they were able to, help me learn. And I honestly believe that a lot of black people's problems with the police are only going to be solved as we infiltrate our people into being police. We need more black police officers. But, I'm not going to say, man, I can't. Most of the times I was ever pulled over by the police on some real shit, and I know this isn't all black men's experience. I was 5 deep. We was smoking weed. We was blasting rap music on some real shit. We was easy targets. You know what I'm saying?
They was doing their job.
Bro, I haven't really been pulled over by the police or threatened by the police for nothing. I've never really had that happen. I'm not gonna lie. And growing up in the East Side, my friends that have problems with the police and have that fuck the mentality issue with the police, most of them are gang members. You know what I'm saying? Most of them are drug dealers. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, if you are against the law, if you are part of an administration that is completely against the law, you know what I mean? It's only natural that you're going to hate the police. But I honestly don't hate the police. You know what I mean? I don't look at them in terrible light. I understand our issues with them, but I've had good experiences with police.
And that's dope to hear, you know what I mean?
It's good to hear. Hell yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and at the same time too, we know the police individually isn't the problem. It's the system as a whole. I'm saying that to say, black cops, from my experience, has been the worst. has been the absolute worst. You know, especially in front of white cops, the absolute worst. You know what I mean? Like I remember seeing one video of a black and a white cop arresting a white woman, and then outside another white woman, no, the white woman that was being arrested, she had looked at the white cop and was like, "You should be ashamed of yourself. You should be ashamed of yourself." And I mean, just how they be treating. I mean, it's crazy just listening to it. So my whole thing is, when I say they just be doing their jobs, like my man Harvey, like my man James said, you know what I mean? We was in the car, thick as hell, you know what I mean? Hot boxing the shit out the car. All right. We didn't even see the, you know, it's so cloudy in the car. We didn't even see the red and blue lights. You know what I mean? We couldn't even see our hand in front of our face type of shit. Yeah. You know, so they knock on the window, but this wasn't one of the cops who was like, all right, y'all, we see y'all ain't doing nothing. That's, you know what I mean? He a whole scene. I mean, it was crazy. It was one time, we all sitting on the curb. He made us all sit on the curb. We parked right outside the homie's house. And you know, us being assholes, we just started to sing that I got nothing but love for you, baby. Hey, it was in routine too, you know what I mean? But he took our weed. He said, "Okay, I'm gonna make you do the right thing," and he gave the weed back to the homie. The homie looked at me like, "Do the right thing." He started putting it in his pocket. He said, "Nah, that ain't the right thing." He put it on the ground and like tried to smush the blunt, you know what I mean, and just rolled the blunt and stuff like that. So I mean, just coming to it, you know, I never felt like the police was on our side ever. You know what I mean? Just coming from my background, all my family, you know, the police, they knew my family. So the cars that I drove, they were targeted because they knew who my family was. You know what I mean? So um that's crazy. But I'm gonna jump into this real fast. You know, that part right there that James has said, try being pulled over in a white neighborhood, not even driving, and being asked for your ID. Ask if the white driver was safe and saying I fit the description. Real talk. We need more black cops, correctional officers. Those are the worst. Or any, I mean, I'm not gonna put it out there because my son, he made it clear to me that he wants to become an officer when he gets older. You know, I was taken aback, to be honest, you know, because I got a homie who's a police officer. He's like, man, I pray to God my kids don't want to be police officers when they get older. And he's a cop right now. You know what I mean? So to that point where I don't want to look at us not being police officers as a solution, because I believe we need to start policing ourselves. And in order to change something as drastic as that, we do need to start looking at, you know, our children and how we can support them and change the system, just so that when they get older to be police officers, the system and the culture of policing isn't the same anymore. And that right now is the culture that we don't fuck with, that I don't fuck with in terms of policing. You know what I mean?
And it's true.
Do we have any cops from the neighborhood? Do y'all remember how bad gang unit used to be? Yes, indeed. Yes,
Oh,
indeed.
yeah. Hell
I
yeah.
mean, yeah, one of the homies, Hackett. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Policing. I mean, but then too, it comes down to, you know, the blue code of honor. You know what I mean? That's what it comes down to, the blue code of honor. How much of, like, if I was to be a police officer, how much loyalty am I going to have towards my community and my people in the community versus that blue code of honor?
Mm.
You know what I mean? So again, it's that system, because I've heard we're gonna have a guest speaker tomorrow. You know what I mean, on our virtual art of storytelling, who was a police officer who bucked at everything that they were doing, and he almost got killed twice. He got strangled in front of the mayor once. You know what I mean? This dude, he was out there on the East Coast making in New York, I mean in New Jersey, doing big shit. You know, I mean, to the point where he was targeted because he wasn't with that blue code of silence shit.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, big homie.
Yes,
Can I
sir.
jump in here? Hey,
Yes, sir.
man, I just got to jump in here real quick just because I want a little bit more perspective from the ladies. And I really want to make sure that we chop it up a little bit more about, you know, being black in Denver and how that varies. You know what I'm saying? Because this young lady that's on the beach and with that beautiful sky behind her, you know what I mean? I just want to know even a little bit more about her experiences because, once again, a lot of that stuff to me comes from trauma. You know what I mean? Like had dealing with black girls who hate on you, who grew up in the community, and then they hate you because you might have a little bit fairer skin or you might be from a different place. You know what I mean? To me, it comes from trauma. Where do you think that hate came from for you?
I definitely felt like the hate came from, I specifically remember Elijah making a status about me my freshman year because I had girls, wanting to jump me, fight me, whatever, just because they do look my way, and that had nothing to do with like the things that I was doing. It's because color of my skin or, the way I talk, the way I dress or whatever. And it's like, it's not that I act better than anybody. It's just like, that's just who I was. And so, experiencing all of that is what that kind of stuff really it did drive me out of wanting to be there. My junior year, I transferred back to TJ. The end of my junior year, I was like, forget this, I'm going to TJ. And so I went to TJ, and then I decided I was going to finish my senior year up at Manual. I couldn't do that. I couldn't go out like that. So I went back to Manual and finished up there. And it's just like, now it's like, I want to give myself all things I deserve because I feel like going through things I did on the east side at Manual, I did let it get to me mentally. It did stunt a lot of the things that I should have been able to do had I had the support from, like a sisterhood or anything like that, or, little conversations like me walking to Phil's class and having stuff like that would help me. And so it does everything literally comes from trauma. So you definitely, hit that.
Deja, what you think about that? Like even as a, what I'm saying, as a chocolate black woman, you know what I mean? Like I always wonder about the colorism between, you know what I'm saying, lighter skinned black men, dark skinned black men, light skinned black women, dark skinned black women. How has that played any role in your life? You know what I'm saying? With the colorism, has there been any difference between you or any buck between you and lighter skinned girls?
Absolutely. It was really hard growing up being darker. Light-skinned girls, that's where it was. You're beautiful, and all the boys wanted to be with you, and it makes it tough. So what I learned how to do, and again, digging into that good old toolbox, all my friends were light skinned. I hung out with the pretty girls so that I could at least be seen. Like that was my ticket into the door. You know what I'm saying? And then, like if I got through the door, I could try to maneuver on my own, but I wasn't getting in without that light skinned ticket in front of me. But my best friend growing up was like, and she was mixed. Matter of fact, she was black and she was beautiful, and everywhere we went, it was never a thought that boys were going to be attracted to her or want to be around her, and it was also safer too. If like we're on the bus, we're doing stuff, we're out and about. If we get lost or something, people are more inclined to talk to us and help us because she's there too. So she's talking, she's introducing us. Hey, we're lost. Do you know which it should we be on this side of the street or this side? Be myself, I'm scary. I'm just getting black. They're like, back your ass up away from me. And so then even like shifting and like hanging out more with like white friends, like when I got to college and like my last 2 years of high school, I've left Maryland and wanted to go to an alternative school, but just aligning with those white people because it just seemed like things are easier. Like hold on, I'm sorry. Things were a little bit easier when you could assimilate the characteristics of someone else or the attributes of someone else. So that went for light-skinned people, that went for white people. Like I noticed that my life was a little bit easier. And so that just kind of became a role that I took on. And like somebody had mentioned in the comments about like hybrid blackness, like that's a real thing because you are literally being two people at once. And it's not that you're being fake. It's not that you're not being black or that you're trying to be white, but you've got to figure out how to make those two things commingle for you so that you can be as comfortable as you can in an uncomfortable situation. It was very uncomfortable growing up and being dark skinned. Very. Like I would be, all the boys wanted to be my friend, but they didn't want to date me. They didn't want to fuck me. They didn't look at me like that. Like I wasn't what was the thing. I wasn't the end thing. I wasn't the desirable thing. And if that's not true, they never said anything because all their friends wanted to date the light skinned girls and stuff too. So then they could run the risk of, being picked on or whatever because they were interested in regular girl. That's all I was. was just the regular black girl. There wasn't anything special about me. So I had to be extra smart or talk a certain way or do everything. I had to go above and beyond because just being who I was not enough.
My brothers, where do y'all think a lot of that comes from? And I'm speaking specifically in Denver because we have it even double, right? We're such a small part of the population. We're around a lot of white people. You know, there's a lot of interracial marriages in Denver. Where do y'all think it comes from even within us? Do y'all think that, you know, being in Denver kind of makes you, you know what I'm saying, question or have more issues with your blackness? You know what I'm saying?
Hell yeah! I mean, let we all me, you, and Phil and Nisha can really experience this and sit
Let me go
there.
ahead and tap in real fast, nephew,
Go
before
ahead.
you keep going. You
Go
know,
ahead.
that's a good pausing point. That's a good
Okay.
transition point. You know what I mean? We're gonna tap back in on Thursday on that
Yeah.
question right there. We in. You know what I mean? Because this conversation was booming. But y'all know we stopped right at 60 minutes. You know what I mean? All right. We're gonna keep
That
that
was a
up.
good little question
Yes,
too.
indeed.
Hey
Yes,
man, I
indeed.
love talking to y'all, man.
Man.
Love y'all.
James,
All
love you,
right.
big bro.
Yeah.
Appreciate you, my guy.
You guys
Hey,
have a good day.
yes, indeed. Y'all know it's always good. Peace
Love.
out. I'll be back
Appreciate you
with.
jumping
All
in.
Hey,
Thank
right.
let's get
y'all.
back on Thursday. Let's get.
Yes,
I'm
I'm
indeed.
here.
with you. Yeah, come on.
All
I'm
right. See you
here.
All
guys
right.
on Thursday.
Yeah.
See
All
y'all on
right.
Thursday.
All right,
Peace.
man.
Peace.
Have a good day.
Bye.